Guys, I have actual boardroom footage of the NWSL's decision on their new Impact player contract. Check it out.
Meep, 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 meep.
Hello and welcome to Dummy Run Sports. I am your host, Brody Hessen, and today I want to discuss the major swing and whiff attempt of staving off the ongoing attrition happening across the NWSL over the past 5 years. This week, the NWSL announced that they are implementing a new high-impact player rule to strengthen talent attraction and retention. Essentially, this is the please don't leave, Trinity rule.
It wasn't over. It still isn't over.
There's been a lot of fair criticism in the details of this rule, and we will get into it. However, I think that the mindset and the strategy going into this new contract rule were so often misguided that, of course, the fine details were always going to be a dumpster fire. Let's take a look at what this rule actually does. It allows teams to exceed the league's established salary cap by up to $1 million for high-impact players. And it can be used for one single player, like Portland recently utilized in securing Sophia Wilson for 2026, or it can be spread among multiple players. The stated goal of this rule is to provide clubs with meaningful flexibility to recruit and retain high-impact talent while preserving competitive balance.
Boring!
And I don't like this approach for several reasons. Mainly, I don't like this rule because it creates a class structure within the players and team. The NWSL is now a league that encourages the financial segregation of its players. And I'm not saying that all players should be making the exact same amount of money. Players should be able to earn what they are worth. Players, as in all of the players, not just one or two. Also, the way that the NWSL has outlined this criteria for being eligible for this higher pay grade is not based on merit, but rather awards and name recognition. The NWSL also stated that the implementation of this new rule demonstrates their commitment to building world-class rosters for fans across the league. Listen, I can demonstrate a commitment to losing weight by buying a gym membership. However, if I don't actually go and show up and do the work, it's never going to happen. And this is where the NWSL whiffed. They had the opportunity to make major positive changes in U.S. women's sports, and yet they came up short with a very narrow-minded solution to issues that were symptoms of a bigger problem. The NWSL is terrified in losing more big-name players like Trinity Rodman after losing star players like Girma, Alyssa Thompson, and Emily Fox over the past few years. This new contract is so clearly about them being frightened of the major clubs in the European leagues. It is so clearly not about demonstrating commitment to building rosters. It is so clearly not about preserving competitive balance and recruitment. This is purely so the NWSL can compete financially with Chelsea and Arsenal, which is pathetic.
You are one pathetic loser.
The NWSL should be holistically looking into the mirror to find out why players are leaving for Europe and why Europe wants US players. Because this is not a new problem. Sam Kerr still holds 2 NWSL scoring records, and she's played for Chelsea for the past 6 years. Besides Chelsea and Arsenal, who have had their hand in the US player grab bag for a while, Man U, Man City, and London City should all be falling over themselves for Trinity and other top players. The overall value of having a player like Rodman is so impactful for them because the WSL is not as strong of a league as the NWSL. Essentially, 30% of the league is world-class talent, and 60% of the teams are still discovering what competitive women's sports can potentially become for them. So securing a Trinity Rodman on a team like, say, London City, Tottenham, or Aston Villa would raise the bar for women's football across the league substantially. The NWSL is very much the exact opposite. Essentially, 60% of the league has top quality competitive athletics in their DNA, and 30% of franchises are struggling to establish what winning looks like. And still, even with the strength of the NWSL, players are leaving. And this impact player rule does nothing to remedy the broad chronic issues with the league. Money is definitely one of the issues, which this does address, but it only addresses it for players like Trinity and Sophia Wilson and Mal Swanson. Eventually, the going rate in Europe will be competitive for backbone roster players, players which the NWSL has clearly indicated that they do not care much about. The second issue is the Champions League. The US has nothing to compete with the Champions League, and if you are one of the best players in the world, you want to be playing against the best players in the world, who broadly are playing in the Champions League. The third issue is the US market. Since the rise of Air Jordans, the US has had a monopoly on endorsement opportunities. However, the US market on the world stage is changing. It has changed and is going to continue to change. As imports and exports shift, brand endorsements will also shift. And I think that the opportunities that athletes have for brand deals will also shift. I am not saying that Nike is going anywhere, but it used to be that you needed to be an athlete in America to build your own brand to attract endorsements. And I think that that is just not going to be the case in the future. Why do I think that this new rule is extremely narrow-minded and doesn't address the issues I've highlighted? I am so glad you asked. You are so clever and attractive. It's in the fine details.
Any previous identity, real or implied, and fully accepts the duties and responsibilities of Santa Claus.
The eligibility criteria that the NWSL has laid out for the players is insulting. As I said, it is not based on merit, but awards and media recognition. Players must appear on media lists, such as the UK-based Sports Pro Media Top 150 Most Marketable Athletes and the Top 40 of the UK-based Guardian's Top 100 list, or be selected as one of the top 30 in votes for the French-based Ballon d'Or Award, which heavily favors European-based athletes. And yes, ESPN is on there as the one US media outlet. However, the fine print of this new rule reeks of elementary school pettiness. It's the NWSL saying to the European leagues, you take our players and we'll take yours. There are a few merit-based qualifiers in this contract, including being a top player on the national team and also being selected for the NWSL MVP and Best 11 list. However, you might be asking, how are the NWSL MVP and Best 11 lists selected? And again, I'll say, you are so beautiful and smart and beautiful. Well, I looked into it, and the NWSL awards are selected with a weighted voting system. And get this, the voting is done by the players, GMs, coaches, owners, and the media, and fans a little bit. So essentially, a player could persuade their fellow teammates and coaches and use their social media presence to campaign for these awards to make them eligible for a big paycheck. Granted, this would probably have to be fairly blatant and obvious, but the league has now implemented a pathway for players to do this. A pathway which would most likely cause a lot of locker room disruption. And yes, I might be a bit grandiose in my take on that, but let me give you a very real situation that I am guessing will happen in some form sooner rather than later. Under this rule, top named talent like Sophia Wilson and Trinity Rodman will most likely dictate that the entire sum of the contract go to them. Their club teammates, the other U.S. women's national team members who should be eligible for this paycheck in the near future, are Olivia Moultrie, Sam Coffey, and Croy Bethune. These are all top players that in the coming years should be getting major paydays. However, because Sam Coffey doesn't have a Nike ad out, does that mean she shouldn't be getting paid what she's worth? Clearly, the NWSL thinks she shouldn't. And if I was any team in Europe that had money, I'd be going after players like Sam Coffey, Croy Bethune, and Jaden Shaw, players who can change the trajectory of your franchise, who yet don't have Ballon d'Or recognition, so they can't get paid in the US. And I don't mean just backbone, gritty roster players. If you are 23 and a base salary player in the NWSL, get on the phone and call any WSL team and they will pay you a base salary and you will be making more money in England. In 2025, the base salary for a 23-year-old or older player in the Women's Super League was £40,000 sterling. That's roughly $54,000 American. The 2025 NWSL base salary was $48,500. Now, I don't want to be a person who only complains. It's very American of me, and I don't like the look of it. So I will give you my 2 cents. Earlier, I mentioned 3 things that I think are causing this reversal of manifest destiny: money, competition, and the US market. To be fair, building something like the Champions League in America or changing the US markets would take years and years to accomplish. Money is really the only thing that they could quickly address. Last year, the NWSL team salary cap came in at $3.5 million after 200 grand of additional revenue share money. For 2026, the base salary cap is set at $3.5 million before the added revenue share money. If the league really wanted to demonstrate a commitment to building world-class rosters and preserving competitive balance and retention, they should have just doubled the salary cap. It's that simple. The NWSL didn't need to reinvent the wheel for this. If the NWSL is worried about pricing out some of the lower income teams, then those lower income teams need to try harder. The business of women's sports is booming. You can find investors if you commit to a good product. Just look at the unrivaled women's basketball league. Link to that video above. The NWSL is having a moment right now. Players are leaving, attendance numbers are down. Link to that video in the description. And other leagues like the WNBA are on the brink of a player strike because female athletes are realizing their worth in the marketplace and demanding to be taken seriously as professional athletes. And listen, I do hope that the NWSL learns from this gaffe, but I also hope that the other leagues in Europe capitalize on it. I think players and fans would benefit from it. I mean, seriously, think about it. Could you imagine if some team in Glasgow or Dublin brought in Trinity Rodman? It would change the landscape of women's soccer. If that's the legacy that Trinity Rodman wants, she should go do it. She and other players are more than capable, and there are more and more opportunities becoming available. Sadly, the NWSL does not seem interested in cultivating such opportunities. Let me know what you think. Are you an NWSL fan? How do you feel about this? Are you a WSL fan? What are your thoughts on the shifting tide of women's sports in Europe? If you like silly and insightful breakdowns and analysis of women's sports, please like and subscribe. This channel is completely free and your support would mean a lot. Anyways, see ya.